Hi fans, I'm the PC Expert Amateur, and this is episode 39, which would look like this, for the air pressure and the airflow and pressure differential comparison for 120 millimeter fans. Sorry for the noise. There's somebody doing renovations in the apartment above me. He was up there between 10 and until after midnight illegally. So if it happens again, I'll be calling the police. Now, as always, I want to remind you that this is the anemometer or airflow meter that I use, and it only has 4 decimal points of precision. I need 5. So unfortunately, this cannot give exact measurements for airflow. As the numbers get higher, they get more and more distorted across the board. So that's the good news and the bad news, meaning that although there's a distortion, it's equal for all fans based on what their number is, the measurement, I mean. So it still allows me to do a ranking of all the fans based on the airflow. And also I use cubic meters per hour instead of cubic feet per minute. If that's a problem for you, sorry. Eventually I'll get around to adding in cubic feet per minute on my spreadsheet, but the spreadsheet is only available to my patrons. So the fans that we're going to look at today are the Rise Mode Black fan. Woo-woo. And this is just a MolXT fan. Also the Arctic F12 PWM PST. The Thermalright TL-C12C. The Blacknonise Noiseblocker NB-eLoop B12-3. And the Akasa Viper. I know, it looks like a really, really big box, and it is. I mean, if we compare it to the small one here, I don't know why they felt they needed that much extra space to market this product, but it is a 120 millimeter fan like the others. So those are the fans. I'm going to put up on the screen now the list of RPM results I got for those 5 fans. Also, I did want to let you know that when I was picking out these fans, I did find the other sickle flow from Cooler Master, and I measured that and added that in. So there might be a tiny difference in where it ranked yesterday versus today. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at these RPM results, and I also want you to look at pictures of the fans and look at the fan blade designs, the hub circumference or diameter, the frame design, and so on, and see if you notice anything about it that indicates that it might be good for airflow or might not be good for airflow. Once you've got that all figured out, I want you to take that information and I want you to tell me in the comments which fan is the worst for airflow and which is the best, and which is the worst and best for pressure differential. Now, they may not follow the pattern of RPMs. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But the Arctic was rated at 1350 but came in at 1480. The Rise Mode was rated at 1500 and came in at 1501.5. The Thermalright 1550 was actually 1580. The Akasa 1900 was actually 1810, a little bit disappointing. And the Blacknonise was 1900 but actually came out to be 2010. So none of these numbers are particularly odd. They're not outside of the realm of normal variation in fans. So go ahead and put your guesses in the comments. Please don't change your guesses once you've done that. I want to see what you're coming up with. This is a learning experience, not a competition. There is no winner, there is no loser. So just feel free to put down your guesses and go with it. And now we've got the airflow information. So let's see if you did well. The Thermalright came in as the worst at 130.8. The Rise Mode was in 4th place, then the Arctic, and then the Blacknonise. And finally, the Akasa came in as the best fan, which was kind of what I was expecting, but I wasn't exactly sure because, well, you know, some of these other fans looked really good as well. So did you get those 2 right? It doesn't matter if you did or didn't. I hope you can learn from it. Now, the pressure differential came in like this. The Rise Mode, again, was the worst at 72. The Blacknonise was at 76. The Arctic was at 77. The Akasa at 81. And the Thermalright was at 82. So a little bit of a mix-up here. in terms of which fan did the best for each. And honestly, I didn't expect that the Thermalright would be the best. So we're going to take a look now at the actual list, full list that is, so that you can see where all these fans rank and see if there's a fan that you're considering and it's on the list, how it compares and whether it's worth your consideration. Okay, so here's the list based on RPMs now, and we can see that none of them were in the low end here. So that's you know, a good sign, but not a definitive sign, because RPMs are not the final arbiter of how fans rank, although it tends to be closer related to noise than other things, or rather more closely. So let's go ahead and get down to the second quartile, and we can see that we've got the Arctic, the Rise, and the Thermalright in the second quartile. And in the third quartile, the Akasa and the Blacknonise. So keep that in mind, and we're going to take a look at pressure differential now. And as soon as you get to the bottom, there's the bottom. Okay. All right, so we can see now that the worst is the Lambtron Nova at 20, and the UM Life is the second worst at 21. And we quickly go from the 20s and 30s within the top 10 into the 40s, and then not too long after that, around 20, into the 50s. We still don't have any of the fans. Sorry, I'm testing out a new mouse today from EUSO, and unfortunately, it's a little bit problematic. Not bad, but it is a very small mouse, and I keep on hitting the scroll wheel by accident, which is not something I normally do, so I'm blaming it on the mouse. All right, so we're going to go down to the second quartile here, which should be... that's interesting. I wonder why that one didn't get any color. Where are they? Oh, there they are. And we've got the Rise mode in the third quartile and the other four in the fourth quartile. So all of them did really, really well, which is not surprising, because once you get into the 70s, you're definitely going to be in the third quartile, maybe the fourth quartile. So that's a plus. Does that surprise you that they did so well? I mean, consider that of these fans, only the Rise mode is not an old fan, at least not as far as I know anyways. Oh, sorry. Still have that cough. The Blacknonise is old. The Arctic, I believe, is fairly old, but not very old. The Akasa is old, I think. The Thermalright is kind of old, but not very old. So it's not too terribly shocking that they are where they are in the list. And now, based on airflow, I've resorted it. The Kingwin Advanced Series is the worst at 70. The Scythe is the second worst at Scythe, Wonder Snail 1200 RPM, is the second worst at 79.8. And then it rapidly rises from there. And unfortunately for airflow, the Thermalright is not a good choice at only 130.8. And it's got good but not amazing static pressure. So this is a fan you wouldn't want on exhaust, and you could use, however, on intake. And then following shortly after that in the second quartile is the Rise mode that did rather better. That mischievous scroll wheel on this mouse just is causing the problem with the colors. All right, so, and then in the third quartile, we have the Arctic and the Blacknonise. And the fourth quartile is just the Akasa. I'm not terribly surprised by the fact that the Akasa is way up there. It does have 210 CMHs of airflow, but it's just barely, and maybe it's actually at the bottom end or the best side of the third quartile, because it's really on the borderline there. But let's go ahead and slide this over so we can take a look at how the fans compare with RPMs, airflow, and pressure differential all on the screen. So maybe this will help you in determining which fan you want to look for, or if the fan you are looking at is worth consideration, or you should take a pass on it, which is to say not get it, for those of you who are not familiar with all the weird idioms in English. So we start with the, whoa, how did that get down there? That doesn't belong down there. That is very weird. Let me get rid of that anomaly. I don't know how that happened, actually. It's a bit odd. Anyways, the best fan based on airflow is the Key fan, followed closely by the Young Yihao Snow fan, and then the panel mounts HH12038 PWM and the Delta 12038 or PFC 1212DE-6A50, and the Silverstone FHS 120X in 5th place, but a good deal behind those other fans. And closely trailed by the Delta AFC 1212DE-SP02 and the Cool Jag Everflow R121232 BUAF or FB1232BU. I'm not really sure which one is the actual model number on that. It's a little bit confusing. So I'm going to just scroll it really slowly so you can see where fans are on the list for airflow. And keep in mind that airflow fans are great on exhaust if they have high static pressure, and you can see the estimated static pressure over here for maximums based on what the information was that was provided by the manufacturer or the vendor. Doesn't mean that it's right, but you can see that. And so you can see if you see a high number like 3.41, then that means that the fan is really good at pushing air through even radiators. If, however, the number is low, say 2, 2.5, better for an airflow fan rather than a water fan, or water cooling. Sorry, not an airflow fan, an airflow cooler, not a water cooling. Sorry. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble. Okay, so if you see like less than 3, I don't really recommend less than 3 for a water cooler, but it's okay for pretty much any air cooler as long as the air cooler is not large. So again, airflow is important for exhaust fans. It's also a good thing to have on an intake fan, but the primary thing you want to look at for an intake fan would be the static pressure, which is in that column there. Go ahead and pause at any time. And we're back at the top of the list. So I hope that today's episode has helped you if you're looking at fan information. I don't really know if it did help you or not, but I hope it did. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions on how to make this series better, please put it down in the comments. And please remember to be civil, because I do have very tough standards for people who are commenting. If you're not going to be civil, don't say anything at all, because I'll just ban you. All right, thanks for watching and have a great day.
I need to ask for your help. Things have been challenging. Whose life hasn't been challenging lately? So if you can please help me out by liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, and turning on notifications, that would be really, really super. Also, if you'd like to help me financially and you can't afford to, you can do a super thanks on my Glenn's Fast Reviews channel, or you can become a member there. Or if you prefer, you can go to patreon.com/GLENNMII and become a member there instead. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Bleeping Computer for their support of my channel. If you need resources for computers, for getting rid of malware and learning about cybersecurity and stuff, Bleeping Computer, BLEEPING computer.com is a great resource. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.